welcome back to Talk Spurs Talk. The previous intro, I didn't have the name decided yet. I kind of figured that out like in 3 seconds before I uploaded. I really hope it's not taken anywhere. I should probably check that. I will check that after this episode. And if it isn't, all 10 of you, I think, who saw the previous video, let me know in the comment section down below what you think could be a better name. But yeah, here to talk about Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals. San Antonio Spurs take down the OKC Thunder 103-82. And my God, was this a great game from the Spurs. For those of you who potentially watched my previous video, one thing that I think I very briefly glossed over, and I think I maybe should have given a little bit more time to, was the 15-0 Open, and how from there we just let our foot off the gas defensively. And I think it really came to show in this game, where we decided to take our offense and supplement it with defense the entire game. And we had, I think, another 15, 17 point run. And from there, the lead stuck. I mean, the lead did dwindle down to maybe 5 at certain points. But basically through this game, ever since it was 8-7 and Isaiah Hartenstein was 4 for 4 in that little shove up shot that he does, I think on the broadcast they call it a little push shot. There was great defense. I'm not gonna say great offense, and we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, I think the defensive consistency was something that they can definitely hang their heads high on after this game. I mean, since I was just on it, I guess this might be a product of the modern NBA talking, but this game didn't showcase much offense from either team. Obviously, much more lackluster from the OKC side in comparison to the Spurs side, but 103 points in a 20-point blowout is also pretty crazy when your star player gives you 33 of them himself. So looking at these field goal percentages here, I have them written down on my trusty little notepad over here. 39% from the field for the San Antonio Spurs versus 33% for OKC. Not a crazy disparity there. Obviously, 6% makes a difference in these kinds of games, but really what you see the big disparity here is 27% from 3 and 18% from 3 for OKC. So the shots just weren't going in for OKC, and whether that comes down to the way that we see Jared McCain shoot it, who goes 0 for 5, Jalen Williams, who goes 1 for 7. Both these guys were, well, I guess Jared McCain shot it 2 for 10 in the previous game, but the overall impact that they brought offensively in the previous game to combine for 42 points, and in this game combined for 7 points. Definitely a big step back on OKC side. They together made 2 shots out of 17 attempted. Horrible shooting night from both Jared McCain and Jalen Williams, which definitely hurts them offensively here. When you look a little bit more at Alex Caruso, this is a guy who in the first 3 games has been getting 15 plus points per game easily. He might be averaging 17, 18 points per game through this series. He looks like one of the most talented people on that Oklahoma City roster, offensively and defensively. And in this game, where if OKC comes out and wins this game, it's a 3-1 lead going back home, taking home court advantage fully, and really if you think about it, they're one crazy Victor Wembanyama pull up half court three away from basically sweeping the Spurs. So when you think about all these kinds of things and you think about the fact that Alex Caruso only takes one shot, it's concerning to see, and it really makes you think about what OKC came into this game thinking. Why was the offensive intensity just not there? Were they okay with dropping this game? Yeah, I think to go on with that, there's been a lot of talk about the refs that were placed here. Obviously, Scott Foster, huge name in, might be the biggest name in officiating in any league, just because of the antics with Chris Paul and how well known he is. There's also that little Instagram story that Chris Paul reposted about Scott Foster not being able to figure out what team Chris Paul roots for. Whatever, all that aside, I think that believe in whatever conspiracy theories you want. I definitely do think that I think I wrote down the free throw disparity here. Maybe not. I think it was, let's see, 18 free throws shot for the Thunder. And for the Spurs, they shot 32. They didn't make a lot of them. I will say that. They didn't make a lot of them. But a 14 free throw difference in a game where they win by 20, I will say a lot of this will boil down to the kind of intensity that we saw from OKC. They really weren't coming out here taking these intense shots. Even with Shea, who's a master at getting to the line, he gets to the line 7 times here, which isn't crazy below average for him, but I really didn't see that same kind of intensity come out of Shea in order to really come away with this victory here. On extender refs, I think that, you know, at the end of the day, this is a professional sports league. This is a league where if the Thunder felt cheated out of the game, they can challenge things, they can submit clips to the league office, like I'm sure the Spurs did after the whole Isaiah Hartenstein debacle since game 2. Yeah, I just don't really see the idea. I do think that that free throw disparity is crazy, but I do think that you see peak offensive intensity from a team that is down 2-1 at home, trying to at least somewhat protect home court, take it back, extend the series, and really have a chance at making the NBA Finals for the first time in, other than Luke Cornett and HB, their entire careers. Another large point here is the turnover battle. Obviously, big point of contention in games 1 and 2. Stephon Castle and how many turnovers he has. In this one, I believe he only had 1. Let me just do a quick check here. Yeah, 1 turnover from Stephon Castle. De'Aaron Fox comes out of this with no turnovers, which is honestly quite uncharacteristic for him. He usually does take on the bulk of our turnovers just because he's such a ball-dominant guard. But 12 total turnovers for the San Antonio Spurs here, in comparison to OKC's 17, which a 5 turnover difference in this tight of a game. And by tight, I mean how many points were scored. Points were at a true premium here. Every bucket, every individual made free throw mattered to the end of this game, and that always happens in these games where scores are 100 and less, and I guess 103, but a lot of that is garbage time minutes, who we really don't care about that. But I think the value of these turnovers is really what's important here. You get them out of all your big guards, You look at Shea, who ends up with 4. You look at I guess Jared McCain was handling the ball here and there, but Chet also coming in with 3 here, and everyone on this team basically having 1. It's detrimental. Even though you do see Wemby come out here with 4 turnovers, I think that it really does make an impact in this kind of game where Shea can have 4 turnovers if he's dropping 30 points a game. But we haven't seen this kind of Shea in a while. Obviously, he has that streak of the most 20-point games in a row, but this is either the 3rd or 4th game in this playoffs where Shea has scored under 20 points. And I think that's quite concerning to have your MVP finals, or 2-time MVP, finals MVP, you know, to some people, best player in the league, a top 5 minimum. I don't really care what you think about his flopping, top 5 minimum. And to see this kind of gameplay from him consistently just reminds me of what we saw out of James Harden. Obviously, he's averaging 40 and coming to the playoffs, and all of a sudden he's gone. And don't get me wrong, Shea's had big games, but we can't sit here and act like out of all damn near 200 games that Harden has played in his playoff career, he hasn't had big games either. And I think it's something that, Shea never has 2 bad games in a row, which does obviously, in a sense, make him better than how Harden plays. But, you can't have your best player when you lose AJ Mitchell, a guard, and Jalen Williams, or J-Dub, another guard, be shooting like this. Shea thing, yes, I do realize that Shea would have had 20 points. Had he played in the 4th quarter, probably he would have. I mean, I can't say for sure, but I think the MVP of the league will score 1 point in an entire quarter's worth of play. And I think that goes to show how little the Thunder were trying here. To be down 20 points, to have literally witnessed within not even just these playoffs, but within these conference finals, a 20 plus point comeback in 7 minutes plus overtime, I guess, of 12 minutes, the length of an entire quarter, and not have your star player come out there and, attempt to draw fouls, attempt to change the momentum, really showed that the Thunder may not care. And they may care more about getting Shea the rest, giving up on the game, and really just looking forward to winning on their own home court, taking the 3-2 advantage, which in some way is maybe the most important thing here, but it is a very interesting tactic here. I don't know how much I believe that you should just drop these kind of games. I mean, you can see what the Knicks did. They're up 3-0 now. Dropping these kind of games where, yes, it's a 20-point game, but, I mean, we live in the Steph Curry, or I guess now the post-Steph Curry era where no lead is safe. I think it's a very interesting decision on that coaching staff. And this is really where OKC's bench is starting to thin out. I saw an equivalence here when it came to the bench battle, where, yes, the Spurs bench was still not looking great, but it was definitely a lot closer to what we see from the Thunder bench in this game, and that's a lot to do with the fact that you don't have an AJ Mitchell coming off the bench. You're going to have to play a lot more Jared McCain minutes, which, frankly, I think he's a very talented player, and I think one day those minutes could lead him to be a starter. But right now, to be throwing him into that kind of situation where he knows before the game starts that if he doesn't play well, this team might be cooked. Maybe he's not ready for that yet. But I guess only time will tell there. I think I'm officially at the point of our notes where I can just talk about our Spurs player here. And man, am I excited to do that because this team, my video yesterday is just talking straight about intensity and what I saw out of a strong, talented team that didn't look like they wanted to play basketball. And it was really upsetting. And to see this kind of response here, yes, offensively, maybe it wasn't the greatest game from everyone. Obviously, Victor, 33 points. He had a great game. And I will say that Steph Castle, with his 13 points and 6 rebounds, I believe was the stat, or 6 assists. That's a great game. You get a double-double out of De'Aaron Fox. Luke Cornett might be the most interesting player to talk about here because, yes, they lose the Luke Cornett minutes, but the idea of Luke Cornett isn't that you're going to go out there and have him like win you a basketball game. He would be a starter if that was the case. The idea of Luke Cornett is to give Wemby a break. And regardless of his plus minus here, the 6 points were straight impact points. The 7 rebounds don't even take into account a lot of these rebounds where he pushes the ball in the direction, or he has great boxing out. He has 2 blocks in this one as well, shoots the ball efficiently, 1 foul, no turnovers. I mean, there's not enough I could say about the work that those nuns did pregame with Luke Cornett. I don't know what they said, what prayers he got. I really hope they give me those kind of prayers and I can somehow make it to the league, even though I'm already 21 years old and I've never played basketball. A little bit more about Julian Champagnie here. Champagnie has been disappointing, to say the least. To be the franchise leader in 3-point makes and to have this kind of performance in the playoffs is just heartbreaking. Especially because he started off these playoffs so hot, shooting the league best 50+% from 3 in the first round, and he dipped down a little bit against the Timberwolves, a better defense, and against one of the best defenses in the world, the best defense in the world. I mean, he shot it 0 for 5 today, 1 for 7 generally from the field, so 1 for 2 from 2-point land. This, the thing about Champagnie is you can't tell him to stop shooting. It's his thing, and eventually they're going to start falling. But right now, the way that Champagnie has been playing, I saw this on Twitter earlier, but the idea of going a little bit different in our lineups where Dylan Harper's not a significantly shorter player. I think he's a 2-inch difference, and starting Dylan Harper and benching Champagnie. And I honestly don't know how against that I am. Looking at how Champagnie has played through the year, he does have his moments where he doesn't play well, but this has been about the past 3 weeks of basketball where I haven't really seen the same Julian Champagnie that I've been seeing through the season. Again, some games here and there he's been playing great, but I wouldn't mind making that switch to a 3-guard lineup with Dev, who's barely a guard, or barely a forward, but really sticking to this smaller lineup, because I think that even defensively here, what you get out of Dylan Harper, quite frankly, isn't much different than what you get out of Julian Champagny. Um, Obviously, you do have to take into the fact that Dylan Harper will make his rookie mistakes, and Champagny is generally pretty solid when it comes to these kinds of defensive plays. He's a hard worker. It feels wrong to even say that we should have to bench him, but I think that if this series does tilt 3-2 towards OKC's favor, there will have to be a real conversation if Champagny cannot perform in that game as well, on what we're really going to have to do in these rotations here. Staying in a more like glass half empty look, let's talk about Carter Bryant. He's a great player, great rookie, but I'm not really sure how we can keep having these kind of moments here where we had straight garbage time minutes, and that is half of Carter Bryant's playtime in this game, in games where he's been getting real minutes. And obviously we're playing a tighter rotation here where we really have an 8-man, 9-man maybe, with Harrison Barnes playing 16 minutes this game. But yeah, I need to see more from Carter Bryant, and I'm not gonna go a little too hard on him because he is a rookie, his first playoffs. But for a lot of these guys, most of these guys, it's their first playoffs, and for him to pick up 4 fouls in less than 7 minutes is it's beyond anything that I've really ever seen. He just went out there to foul, and I could see that he was frustrated. This is not his game, but I didn't see the defensive intensity that he's been getting, and I really hope that, you know, Mitch Johnson gets a chance to sit down and talk to him in between these games and tell him to shape up a little bit here, because he has been impactful on the defensive end, forcing turnovers, forcing bad passes, getting the ball out of SGA or Jared McCain or even AJ Mitchell's hands. And I think if the Spurs want to continue playing good basketball in the series, this bench will definitely have to step up to the level of OKC's, especially if you consider that AJ Mitchell could come back, if you consider the fact that J-Dub could be back, if you consider the fact that Jared McCain's not going to shoot 1 for 7, Jalen Williams is not going to shoot 1 for 6 every game, we're going to need Carter Bryant minutes to be impactful. Getting back to really hyping our guys up, though, Devin Vassell, man. I've been a Spurs fan for basically my entire life, ever since 2011, and in now it's 15 years of fandom, 6 of those Devin Vassell has been a Spur. And I have loved Devin Vassell ever since I've seen him. Maybe not a late lottery pick kind of guy, but I think that on a lot of teams he could blossom and be this number 2, number 3 option kind of dude. But the way that you see him play basketball out there, where he puts in the defensive intensity on every play, you saw this a lot last game, but this game, where you see him getting blocks against these 7-footers in Hartenstein and Chet, and, coming in there, finding the ball in a position where he can take advantage of a steal, always being ready to take a shot in the 3-point land. Devin Vassell has been the X factor in this series, and I really hope that we do get a proper 25, 30-point Devin Vassell game, a little vintage to the early / pre-Wemby days, because I think he deserves it. more than anyone on this team, Devin Vassell is someone that I'm looking forward to, you know, knock on wood, get that championship ring. And yeah, I mean, I can't say much else about him. He just played great basketball out there. De'Aaron Fox, this dude is a straight killer, and I am so happy because I saw a lot of trades getting drawn up of, um, I think it was Luke Cornett, De'Aaron Fox, and a first round pick for Kawhi Leonard. And don't get me wrong, Kawhi Leonard is my favorite player of all time. But De'Aaron Fox's value has kind of been pushed under dirt, like a little buried. And that comes from the fact that he's playing on the court with a star guard in Stephon Castle, and Dylan Harper, who has really shown to be a top 3 rookie in this class. I don't really think it should be an argument. I mean, one of the rookies is still playing. And yeah, it's his minutes that De'Aaron Fox is biting into. So I understand the argument, but what De'Aaron Fox does for this team, we saw this in the first 2 games when we talk about the turnover battle a little bit here. Giving Stephon Castle some breathing room, being more of an off-ball guard here. You also see that Dylan Harper in this game only has 2 turnovers, but you have to imagine what it would be like if Dylan Harper is playing these 30-minute roles instead of De'Aaron Fox. And again, trading away De'Aaron Fox means more for Carter Bryant, and as much as I love Carter Bryant, I don't know if we are ready for that next season, especially since we proved that we are a competitive team and a win-now team. I don't want to get older. And Luke Cornett may be having a bad playoff run, but this season he's been something special for us. And I just, going back to De'Aaron Fox, this double-double today, maybe not the greatest shooting, but he's playing on that ankle, and you can see him grimacing in pain almost every time he lands. And he played 30 minutes. There were the entire fourth quarter. My girlfriend was over, and I was talking to her about the players on the team and everything because she doesn't really watch basketball like that. I was talking about how I want to see De'Aaron Fox get the rest that he deserved. And, thank God this guy was out there for us tonight. Quick, before we get to the main 2 guys I want to talk about today, I wanted to talk a little bit more about Harrison Barnes, who gets 16 minutes here. Again, talking about the Champagny thing, I think that Harrison Barnes is definitely coming in here. Usually it's the ease in the Devin Vassell minutes, a little bit of Julian Champagny, because you do see the veteran presence, a little bit of defense, but mainly the ability to create some shots, be a voice guy off the bench for our bench group, obviously including Keldon Johnson. But Harrison Barnes here comes out with, not a great shooting performance, but still makes an impactful 5 points here. And you saw his defense, the way that he was spacing on the offense, the way he was communicating. I just think that he deserves some of his flowers here, because even in his older age, he's coming out here and making an impact on a playoff team in the Western Conference Finals. So shout out Harrison Barnes. Finally, we get a chance to talk about Wemby and Stephon Castle here. So real quick, going over their stat lines: Wemby 33 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, with 4 turnovers, 2 fouls, but a plus 29 overall. What I want to highlight more in this than anything is minutes played. 31 minutes played, 33 points. I always love to see, this is usually a thing that I look for more in role players, how many points you can put up off the bench, especially if you're a scoring role player, compared to the amount of minutes you play. What I see out of Wemby, my starting center, my top 3 player in the world is that he can outscore the amount of time that he's playing. And that is super important because I think that he was playing more than necessary even in this game. I think this could have been one of those Wemby games where he sits down for 20. He plays 27 minutes. The rest of it he's sitting out. And you see him on the bike there towards the end on the broadcast, and I don't think that they talk about this enough. I think that Wemby's endurance has been tested not just through this series but through these playoffs. This is a game where he doesn't look gassed the entire time. They're training his endurance, and I think this may be a common theme with him, but when he goes to the bench, he might just get a little too relaxed. He might just be sitting on that bench, and all of a sudden all that juice that comes out of him in the beginning leaves, and that's why he's shooting 4 shots in the first half, 5 shots in the first half. In this game, he had his most points in a half in the playoffs with 22. He shot a total of 22 shots, 11 went in. Again, I'm not a big fan of the amount of threes that he takes. I think that is great. I obviously know that he can make them. He goes 3 for 7 in this one, which is great shooting percentage. But I'm going to real quick take out that half-court buzzer beater at halftime. Great shot. Went in. It's beautiful. But out of real shots that he took, 2 for 6, and a lot of them were pretty open, good looks. He's been shooting it better in this series, but I just don't think that it's necessary for Wemby to ever take 7 threes in a game, and it goes to show that, like, yes, the Thunder had a bad game, so we got away with it. But if this game is closer, those extra maybe 2-3 shots that he's been taking, you know, with as well, he's taking them at inopportune times. 14-15 seconds left on the shot clock, have the opportunity to pass it around, get into the paint, do something other than just take a 3 on someone who's at least half a foot shorter than you. It can be a little annoying, and I think the commentator said it best, where he can make it, but you don't want him settling. But other than that, this is a perfect Wembanyama game. And then Stephon Castle, maybe my favorite player on this team, comes out here with the most impactful 13-6 I've ever seen in my life. They talk about this with the unselfish plays where he was passing the ball a lot. And there was a very long period of time where Stephon Castle only had 1 foul. And it was, I think, until like maybe half, maybe a little bit before halftime. But he ends this game with 5 fouls. And I think that is just kind of funny to think about, because these things pile up so fast for him, and he can get just in this rhythm of hacking a little bit. And at this point, like, he should know that he doesn't have the whistle to avoid those kind of calls. So really looking a little bit more into the way that he's playing defensively. But again, a defensive game where he's running after SGA, forcing bad shots, forcing turnovers, all these kinds of things. I couldn't say much else. This might be his most impactful game this series, just because of the way that he shut down SGA. Yeah, that's all I have. Getting ready for Game 5 back in OKC at 5:30 on May 26th, 5:30 PST. Looking into this game, obviously keep these same kind of themes. I would prefer better offensive performance. I don't think that you're going to get lucky enough to get an under 20 point Shai Gilgeous-Alexander every game. If there is no AJ Mitchell, if there is no J-Dub, I don't think you're going to get that lucky where you're going to have a total of 2 for 13 from Jared McCain and Jalen Williams off the bench. So really just, taking the win, celebrate. but realize that this isn't the perfect game tape on how to beat the Thunder and what we can do when SGA will have his games, because I can almost guarantee that he'll be 20 plus next game. But other than that, see you guys after maybe the end of the Knicks series, if I do one of those. Assuming they sweep, obviously. But yeah, maybe see you guys then. Maybe see you guys after the Spurs game for sure. But yeah, thank you.